There's a number of reasons why you're here. One is because it's the NUFC Matters end of season do. It seems ages ago since the season ended, but typical Wraithy, let's put it on in June. God knows why. We also wanted to just basically get everybody together, have a really good evening, but also raise a little bit of money for charity. And we've got Sonia here from Age UK North Tyneside, which is the charity that we've all supporting tonight and through the season that's just passed, and obviously next season. And I thought before we get started, we'll just ask Sonia to say a few words to give us an introduction to what the charity is all about, why she works for the charity, and what the charity does for the people in North Tyneside. It's dear to my heart because I'm a North Tyneside lad. I'm originally from Wallsend. I now live in Heaton. But my two friends here, George and Neil, they're from Wallsend. Apparently Neil lives in Dubai, but I don't know if anybody knew that. But it'd be nice to hear from Sonia exactly what the charity's doing, who it supports, how it supports it. So I'm just going to leave it to Sonia to just tell, because Sonia, Steve said you could talk for England. Sorry about that. All of it. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sonia. I'm from Age UK North Tyneside. We're a local charity. We've been around for over 50 years. We're based in Shields on Savile Street. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. I don't want to bore you with awful dramatic statistics, but I think... You take the selfie?
You've never met George before, have you?
Are we?
He has a reputation.
We'll get the mic in a minute. Just give us a chance. Anyway, back to the main plot. So we've been around for 50 years. We're based in Shields. We're a charity that deals predominantly with people who are living with dementia, families who are coping with that awful condition. It's a condition that's very close to my heart. My dad had Alzheimer's and he died very, very young. He was a steel fixer. He built the Red Hoof Bridge. He built Eldon Square, and I'm very proud of him. I used to work in China for years, and when my dad was really poorly, my mum was trying to cope at home, and he was quite young, sadly, and he never got to retire, and he died very young, and there was nothing around for my mum and dad at that time. So it led me to wrap in the job that I had in China and go to work for a local charity in Shields. So what do? We work with families to provide coping mechanisms for them so we can support them in their caring journey. What we also do is put on loads of activities for people who are living with the condition themselves so that they feel benefited and worthwhile and have meaning to their life. We always say it's possible to live well with dementia, and that's what we try to do. So last year, I was approached by Steve and by Joe Allen, and they said to me, we'd like to come along and find out what you do. So I picked them up from the metro. Neither of them drive, apparently. Who knew? Picked them up from the metro, took them along to our housing development, which is in Backworth, which has got 40 individual apartments for people who are living with dementia or a cognitive impairment. All of these people live there. They pay rent. They live well. We can dial up their care, dial down their care as it's required. We like to hope that we prolong their independence and also give their families something to look forward to throughout that dementia journey. So thankfully, Steve and Joe were really impressed by what we did. They decided that they would come along and support us, and they've been doing that ever since. And they've raised money for us. Tonight we'll raise money for us again. I will bore you with one statistic, and I don't want to spoil the energy in the room. But the case is now that 1 in 3 people born today will actually have dementia. And what we're trying to do is we can't at the moment arrest that awful condition. But what we can do is improve the lives of those people who are living with it. So we're fundraising tonight. We've had 11 years worth of dementia services and Admiral nursing in North Tyneside. Newcastle has never benefited from that. There's never been the funding to do that. But very recently, the Barber Foundation donated a large sum of money to enable us to put a service into Newcastle, and we've launched that now. So all I would say tonight is, guys, thanks for coming along. Thanks for raising money for Age UK North Tyneside. All of the money raised tonight will support people and families and those ones who are living with dementia. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much, Sonia. That is an amazing statistic, isn't it? That 30% of people are going to be affected. So I'll look around this room. I think we sold approximately 110, 115 tickets for tonight. That means that potentially, based on those stats, over 30 of us in this room will be affected directly. And when you look at it that way, you think, wow, that is unbelievable. That is quite scary. So the work that Sonia and our team are doing to support the likes of ourselves and our families going forward is an amazing thing. So thank you very much, Sonia. And thank you to everybody who's donating tonight. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Pet. Just going to a divorce party now. Not our own, just going to a divorce party. Right, it's Friday. And normally I'd be sitting in the back bedroom. George would be sitting in his living room. God knows where Mitch is normally on a Friday. He's somewhere, but he never lets on. And normally we're doing the NUFC Matters Three Amigos. I don't know why it's called Three Amigos, lads, because there's 4 of us now. And sometimes there's 5 because we've got Borough Mag. But we'll stick to the Three Amigos theme. And what we thought we'd do, rather than stick some music on, because I was told that my choice of music was rubbish, we thought we'd do an impromptu sort of Three Amigos show. Just for half an hour, just to, somebody said entertain you. God knows whether that's the right word to use. But I think it's an opportunity, because Mitch obviously in Dubai, it's an opportunity for obviously you guys to meet him, and I'm sure most of you have. But it's an opportunity for me to be sitting alongside my friend and his dad, who I go to the match with as well. So I feel quite honoured in that. And just to hear from them, not from me, their experience of the season, where they think we're going forward, but more importantly, to get some questions from you guys. So I'll throw a question in. Shall I throw a question in, or would you like to just start, Mitch? It's up to you. How do you feel?
How do I feel? Happy to be here.
Great.
Happy to see everybody who's turned out tonight, and I can't thank everybody for the support. It's something that started as mates talking shite on bloody Instagram, and
Still doing it.
still doing it, aye. And people bother to turn out, and that is amazing. We have a platform which is a really special and privileged thing, and the biggest thing that we're desperate to hold on to is it doesn't turn into the way some others do, to jump on everything and make everything sensational, but to be real. The conversations we want to have are the kind of conversations we have in the pub, and that you might join in with and want to maybe continue yourself with your mates at home. And that's still the ethos of everything that we do. And the fact that we can raise some money and help people along the way, that's become something really very special. So thank you all for turning out tonight. It really is appreciated.
See, he's quite good, isn't he, when he's not drinking?
I think the word's gobshite, mate.
George, you have a vast experience of Newcastle United because you've supported them, you've played for them, you're very much embedded in the black and white stripes. But this last season, how's it been for you?
Incredible. Saw my first game in 1945, would you believe? And that's amazing for somebody who's only 21. It's been the season of the club's life, in my opinion. 3 years ago, when the takeover happened, they came in with a 5-year plan, which isn't unreasonable for the state of the club we were in. They took us over when we were heading for the First Division, and nobody gave us tuppence to survive, and yet we did, and we've gone on from there. We're now into the European Championship for the second time in 3 years, and we've won silverware. Doesn't get much better than that. We wanted to get better than that, but let's face it, all the cup things that happened in the 50s that I enjoyed through my family, and particularly my father, who's seen them all, they weren't the beginning of anything. So there was no European Cup to go on after them. The Cup was the thing. That's why Seymour specialised in having to go at the Cup. That was where the money was. But it was the end. You just won it and then got ready for the next time. There wasn't a European Cup to go on or anything like that. What we've done this season is an open door for me. It's just an open door to bigger and better things. And all the things I hope that Eddie Howe gets to do with a team that he's had responsibility in putting together. So just to remind you, we've got 25 registered players. And 9 of those players played for when Bruce was our manager, if that's not a dirty word. And he wouldn't even play some of them. And yet suddenly, Eddie Howe turns them into world beaters sometimes. And quite often. Nobody won more games than us last year in the Premiership other than the champions, Liverpool. And we'll give them a run for their money. And when we made our minds up at Wembley, we did more than give them a run for our money. We actually tore them apart. They got away lightly, in my opinion, at Wembley, because we really did play them off the park. So it's been, for somebody like me, it's been an incredible year, which I've enjoyed. To go to this Free Amigos and all the other bits and pieces that I do for Steve Wraith, it's been a great thing for me. I mean, there are people in this room who are now our dear friends who I didn't even know before the NUFC matters, and we got together through that, through Fans Forum, or all the other things that we do. So it's been great, and it happened at a good time for me, and I can link this with Sonia's opening, because at the time this started, my wife was deep in Alzheimer's. I nursed my Marjorie at home for nearly 7 years because we had COVID. Nobody could come. We couldn't go anywhere. It was desperate. And then as COVID eased, I managed to get a podiatrist to come in and do her feet. And when Darren came in and did my Marjorie's feet, he said, "Do you never take her to the North Tyneside Age Concern Day Centre?" I said, "Never heard of it." He said, "Well, it's in Cedar Grove in Wallsend." So before he was out the street when he left, I rang Cedar Grove. And they said, "Well, bring her down and let's see if we could do anything further." I had hardly been out the house for nearly 7 years. So for 2 half days a week, North Tyneside Age Concern Cedar Grove Day Centre took my Marjorie for 2 half days. I can't tell you what that did for both of us, because she must have been absolutely sick of me. But it's so cruel. And there's an advert on television that irritates me at the moment for the Alzheimer's Society. And my Marjorie had Alzheimer's. And it's an awful advert because it starts with, "Oh, she died when she forgot her recipe. She died when she forgot my name. She died when she..." And it drives me dotty. I had my Marjorie for nearly 7 years, and never once did I think she died. She changed nearly every 3 months, so I had to change. But it was like courting all over again. We just started again, and it was great. It was, I could keep her going, and I suddenly realised that the one thing that really would help her was music, and she loved her music. She loved rock and roll and Elvis and all of that, and so she used to before she slept, we sometimes used to sing together upstairs. And so I went onto the internet and got the words of songs so I could sing with her. And it was really incredible. And I never thought anything more about it. But it really is important. And North Tyneside Age Concern did an awful lot for us. Only 2 half days a week, but by gum, I can tell you, what a relief that was.
You know what, George? I think everybody in the room is sitting there thinking, you know what? I now know that if I need any support, I need any help, if I'm in that situation, I know that there are people there that can support us. And I think what you've done there is you've just opened up and allowed the rest of the room not only to appreciate what you went through, but probably to look back and think, you know what, perhaps I'm in that situation, or perhaps I now know what to do if I'm in that situation. But you know what, I never thought I'd come out on a Friday night and I'd hear the word courting. Wow. And you know what, some of my pals down here are the same age as me, and they all sniggered and laughed because they knew what it meant.
I'll
Cheers,
tell you-
Tony Paul.
I'll tell you one irritating thing. He's not here, so I'll tell you, Steve Ray. I do a thing called Those Were the Days, if you haven't watched it, where I go over a season game by game. And it usually takes me about 2 hours to record it. And Marge would be sitting in her chair watching me do this. And when I'd finished, I'd sit back and I'd say, well, that was a good show. And Margie would say, yeah, that's Steve Wraith's bloody great. All Steve Wraith was doing was putting the bloody pictures on.
He still does the same, man.
I was doing all the talking. But that's what she used to say. And the music that people hated, Margie loved it because it was Steve Wraith. So, yeah, important. You don't know how important.
Thanks, George. Mitch, I want to ask you, Mitch, because I'm lucky enough. I've been to Dubai quite a few times and met the crowd that you sit with and watch the games with, but I don't know whether everybody appreciates what it's like for the international fan, because and again, for me, it's something that's sort of reared its head over the last couple of weeks when the phrase international supporters club has been mentioned and filtered out of the club, but we don't know much about it. But from your experience, what started off as a bunch of lads and lasses getting together to watch the match is now turned into something slightly different.
It's grown exponentially over the last 2 years in particular. When I first arrived in Dubai, there were actually 3 groups meeting, all claiming to be the official supporters club. And there the twain should meet, they wouldn't get together, the classic herd and cat situation. They all wanted to do the same thing, but they wanted to do it in their own way. And because this one had fallen out with that one, they weren't going to go there. And that's too far for me to travel, so I'm not going there, and what have you. Then slowly over time, it was started to try and get people together. And then once the takeover happened, that gave a focal point in the Middle East to drive people together. And so out of the blue, we suddenly had all the groups meeting in the one place, and we've gone from regular 20 to 30 people to, well, for the Carabaocup, we had 500. For the last game of the season, we had 320. And it's generally expats. It's people like me who've moved out. It's not just people in Dubai. There's people from Abu Dhabi and Ras Al Khaimah and Al Quwain and some of the other Emirates come down to share the experience. We've got our own flags. We now have a bar that's very much ours, where everything's on display all the time, and it's known as the home of the Dubai Mags. And then now we've converted into one of the formal overseas official supporters clubs, which has been a long time coming, because everything within St James's Park and supporters services seems to move at a glacial pace, unfortunately. And to be told that things are constantly, quote unquote, with legals for reasons known only to themselves. And then unfortunately, when they do deliver things, sometimes it just does feel a little bit half-arsed. But I guess that's the process of growing, and you cannot really complain too much. Because where we've come from and where we are now, it's huge. And we also have more local interest. We're getting more people from the Middle East actually interested in supporting Newcastle United. And particularly if you talk to the guys in Saudi, it's not unusual to see club colours, club crests, pictures of players up on billboards in malls and in places where families gather and things like that.
He's painted a great picture there. What he hasn't told you is they've got a fucking drum, right? But it's not any ordinary drum.
Nothing to do with me.
It's an oil drum. This is Dubai. It's an oil drum. What's going on there, Mitch?
It has nothing to do with me.
You know
I
what
am
it
not
is.
responsible for any drums or such like. If they were sat next to St James's, they'd be playing it by clenching their arse.
Right. Any questions from the floor for Mitch? You might as well, if you've got any questions, just throw them to him or George. Don't throw them to me. I'd like to hear, anything you've got to ask them, because this is a chance. We've got about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most.
Isn't that the thing about the beautiful game, though? It allows everybody, and I mean everybody, to have an opinion and decide who's good, who's bad. It's your opinion. There's no reason why you shouldn't have that opinion. And Darren respects mine as I respect his. But it's been amusing how people have taken it totally the wrong way and thought we were really having a go at each other. But it's part of the pleasure, as I say. That's what the beautiful game's about,
Well, let's face it.
Of Jeff? No, I haven't seen it.
Let's face it. Jacob has had the season of his life. I mean, I think we'd all agree with that. I mean, no player has surprised us more. Well-deserved applause for Jacob Murphy. Most improved player, fair enough. Yeah, bottling it now. Anybody up yet? Was that the back there, mate? From George. In a black and white shirt. Best player ever for you?
Sorry, there's only one, Jackie Milburn. Jackie Milburn.
Why, George? Why? What was special about him?
Well, Jackie Milburn was the first, in my opinion, was the first player to realise that footballers needed to be athletes as well as be good with the ball. And he did all sorts of training on his own that left all the others behind. Yes, after he finished, though. When he became a journalist. But he was... People don't realise, Jackie Milburn won the Powder Hall Handicap, 100 metres, twice, and won lots of money doing that. And the coach at McNeil from Blythe said that when the amateurs at the Olympics were struggling to break 10 seconds for 100 metres, McNeil at Blythe said that Jackie Milburn was doing it then. And so, and if ever you seen him training, he looked different to all the other great players we had at the time in the cup teams. If you look at the dressing room pictures from the cup finals in 51, 52 and 55, the only player that's got his shirt off because he's got a six-pack is Jackie Milburn. And he really did do some incredible things. He was so quick and equally good on the right wing, equally good down the middle, and thunderous shot. There was a rumour he couldn't head the ball, and Manchester City fell for it in the 55 final, and that's how we got a goal in 45 seconds because they left him unmarked for an early corner. No, it has to be for me, Jackie Milburn. And on a personal story, I signed for Newcastle's with schoolboy forms in 1955-56. And by 57, I was starting to play in the ends team, the junior team. And you used to have to report to St James's on a Saturday to find out which team you were playing in. And I got to St James's, and one of the coaches, ex-Newcastle great fullback called Benny Craig, was waiting for us. George, the A team, who played in the Northern Lions, haven't got a needle left back, so I will take you down and you can help them out. So here's this 15-year-old with glassy eyes about playing for Newcastle. So I went down to North Road, which used to be a pitch in Wallsend, where the Lindisfarne Club is now. That used to be a football pitch. I had no idea where I was going, except I was going to play for the Newcastle third team. And I knew some of the players were first-team players on their way back, like Billy Thompson, the centre-half, and Ken Hales, the midfielder, who just won the Youth Cup. Anyway, Benny Craig takes us up the stairs into the dressing room, opens the door, and he says, "Jackie, here's your left back." Well, what I hadn't realised was Jackie Milburn was the manager of the A team at that time. It took us 20 minutes to get a breath. Standing in front of that man, I just was absolutely gobsmacked. You know, your hero's there, and he's actually talking to you, and you're touching him. and you're going to play for him. It was almost too much, but fantastic experience, something I'll never forget. So that's a long answer to your question, but Jackie Milburn for me.
Great answer. Great answer. Next question, anybody? Go on again. Bobby Charlton and Duncan Edwards. Did you ever play against them or come across them on a pitch?
Not directly. But I've got to say to you, I'm glad I saw Duncan Edwards before he left this earth, because he was the footballer, the complete footballer. Could play in any position, physically as quick as anybody, very strong, and it was great. I really was pleased to actually seen him play. Bobby Charlton was one of the greatest English players, of course, and a cousin of Jackie Milburn, and part of a dynasty of footballers from Ashington. But I never actually graced the field where he was. I've seen him lots of times, but that's all.
You did grace the field with a special Scotsman, though, didn't you? And another name that people will remember, I'm sure. Well, some of us will remember.
I think you're talking about Billy Bremner.
Billy Bremner, yes. Go on, George. Yes. I want to hear this story again. I get this story every now and again from George, but it's a brilliant. Go on.
In New Year 1957, New Year's Day, the North of England boys played the South of Scotland boys, and I happened to be selected for the North of England boys. At what I would call old-fashioned centre half. You would call them centre back. And it was going to be played on Easter Road, Hibernian's ground, immediately after the Hearts Hibs annual derby, which was always on New Year's Day. And the North of England coaches said to her that South of Scotland had pulled a fast one, and they were actually going to play the full Scottish team, not just the South of Scotland team. We were going to face the full Scottish team on that day. And we went out, and it was a good game. And the problem we had was the Scots had a little gingerhead right winger who was tearing our left back, whose name I'm not going to give you because he's still alive, in shreds. So at half-time, I was switched from centre-back to left-back to cope with this little right winger. And then I had a hell of an afternoon after that, chasing this little gingerhead kid. And his name was Billy Bremner. And the centre-forward I faced when the match started was a bloke called Willie Penman. Not the Willie Penman that played for us, but the one that went south. But Billy Bremner, yes. And he was the youngest kid on the pitch as well. And just made a complete mess of all of it. He was so clever.
You know what, Paul? That makes us kicking shite out of Steve Bruce like quite a different story, doesn't it? Schoolboy football. Mitch, I'll come back to you. We mentioned the international fans, and obviously your history, like mine, was taken up with Supporters Trust, and originally what was the Newcastle United Supporters Club back in 2008. We've come a long way since then, haven't we, as supporters? And I'm just wondering, I read an article just today where people or certain fans are now griping about our owners. I couldn't believe it, actually. An article that says it was the worst thing that's ever happened almost, that we've now got Saudi owners. How different is it now, Mitch, to what it was in 2008 when we started? I know how different it was, but what's your thoughts?
It's a world of difference. Even, if you compare the numbers. If you remember when we launched the idea of Yes We Can as the Supporters Trust, trying to work as a potential scheme to buy the club off Ashley. What we were working with were telephone numbers. The numbers you're talking about now are international telephone numbers. They've got a 3-number prefix on the start of it. I think that that whole concept has been proven to work at a lower league level and a non-league level. It once again reflects something in the game that will seemingly forever be there, that when clubs get into trouble, it's the fans they turn to. The fans that have been loyal all the time and have put their hands in their pockets repeatedly, it becomes again those fans that they then turn around and say, we need to rescue this club from trouble, or we need to create a Phoenix club, and it's the fans that they go to say, can you put your hand in your pocket again? In the modern game, the way it's headed, I don't see, and it's upsetting as somebody as a founding member of the Supporters Trust, to sit and say, well, that's gone now. I don't see a role for fan ownership in any way, shape or form at the top flight or even in the Championship, because the numbers are so different. It just doesn't work that way. And it's very, very difficult to see how. Mind, I'm also of the opinion now, and it's changed significantly, that fans will repeatedly make terrible business decisions for football clubs.
You do?
We get so passionately involved. We need to be a step removed from that. And that's where I see potentially a role for something like the Fans Advisory Board, etc. However, I have a problem with the way that is constituted at the moment, that it's hand-picked, that it seems to be individuals that are there for specific reasons. I don't think at the moment they will feed back fans' opinions to the club, because have you been canvassed by any of them? Have any of them reached out to you? I'm on multiple international fans groups on WhatsApp and all sorts, and nothing, total silence. We have an international fans member on the board who supported the club since the takeover, and the club did her dirty, by the way, by publishing that bio that said that. I think that's awful. Yeah. I think that's really taken the rug from under her, but equally, how can she represent me? She just can't, in my opinion. Yeah. I think they will gatekeep opinions and feedback what the club wanted to hear. The recent rewriting of the rules to allow them to say that they can accept freebies with a small charitable donation just looks wrong. The optics are terrible. And all those sort of things should have been dealt with and sorted out a long time ago. How fans interact with the club is really important, but we have, in my opinion, not enough people in that level at supporter services who have the skill set or the ability or the understanding of how it works. When we did the hard yards, when we were going out trying to convert the then fledgling NUSC to NUST, and we went to clubs and pubs around the region from the Scottish borders down to Yorkshire and across to Cumbria, and canvassed so many people's opinions, the number of things we learned out of that. Newcastle fans won't be told what to do. They're independent thinkers and they need to be interacted with. However, when you do interact with Newcastle fans, they feel grateful for the interaction and thank you for it. Even if they end up disagreeing with you at the end of the day, they'll still say, hey, that was a great chat and thanks for coming out and reaching out to it. That's where the herding cats thing comes from me. You've got to get everybody in line to feel that they're pulling in the right directions for the right reasons. And at the moment, we just don't have people with that skill set in place. And again, the international supporters clubs is a classic example to keep waiting for months and months and months about what's going on. Then they put something on the website when we were told, oh, actually, that's just a test page and it shouldn't have been released. And then 48 hours we were told, oh, no, actually, it's gone live. And then what we did get off them was poor at best. And I think when we're striving to be the very best, and we are told by our owners, number one, we want to be the very best in every way, shape and form. And that takes time, and I'm quite happy to be patient about that. But it needs to be happening in all levels, and it isn't happening in some levels. Quite the opposite, in my opinion, and that's what frustrates me.
It's an interesting one. I want to pull up some... Cheers, guys. I want to pull up some stats here that I just picked up off the Daily Mail earlier. Ronaldo, £488,000 a day, his contract. A signing on bonus of 24.5 million, which increases to 38 million if he triggers his second season, if he can be bothered. Plus a 15% stake in the club he's currently playing for, 16 full-time staff, which constitutes 3 drivers, 4 housekeepers, 2 chefs, 3 gardeners, 4 security staff, which is going to cost the club £1.4 million a year. And just to help him, because he's struggling, they're going to give him £4 million worth of vouchers for to use their private jet. And they've also said, if you'll stay for the 2 years, we'll promise, and that's not inverted commas either, we promise you £60 million in sponsorship deals with Saudi companies. That's where football's gone. That's where it's heading. Crazy figures. Sorry, mate? He's still a canny player at 39-year-old. He's still a canny player. But it shows you how far we've come from, and obviously, I mean, this is Saudi. This is a different world. But it shows you, I think, adding on to what Mitch has said, when we talk about fan ownership, it's pie in the sky now. In 2008, it was an opportunity that could have been ours, but I think it's pie in the sky now. And the only thing that as supporters we can really do is to rail against some of the decision making that's now coming our way. We're going to see, in my opinion, very shortly, we're going to see 20-minute half-time breaks. We're going to see games that are going to end up playing probably for 60 minutes, and we're going to have 4 quarters, and we're going to have adverts during them breaks. That's the Americanization of the game. There's already been an announcement today about some silly things that are coming in next season. Like, for example, apparently they're going to have cameras in the changing rooms before, during and after games. They're also going to allow cameramen to run onto the pitch and get involved with the support with the players while they're celebrating a goal. I mean, this is where we're heading. It's madness, and I think it's only those type of things that we can rail against. I don't know where we're heading on football. I just hope that Newcastle United are going to move forward in a sensible way, and the only way we can do it is by having sensible fans and keeping the control and making sure that if it is the fans advisory board that's the only outlet we've got, then we hound them and make sure that our club's not going to be humiliated. We've done it before, and I think we can do it again.
All we need to be is the club's most critical friend.
Yeah.
And be able to go to the club and say, this is the direction we need you to be going in.
Absolutely.
And be able to have a frank conversation without being seen as the enemy. My big issue, having dealt with people in place at the club at the moment, some of those are people who go back to the Ashley era, and unfortunately this is part of the Stockholm syndrome I keep referring to, is they still view fans as problems. We're not, we're part of the solution. And we understand that the owners, I have absolutely every belief that our owners have the very best intention for Newcastle United. I've got serious doubts about interactions with the city council and lots of other things that we need to go right to achieve, to be able to become the very best of everything. But that's what our role should be, and should be respected as that critical friend who can say, hey, no, not in our name.
By the way, I would love £488,000 a day salary, and I think we all would. We're going to round off now. I just want to say, sorry, go on, George. He always does this on the show, doesn't he?
Just a history lesson, folks. 1950, when we beat Blackpool in the FA Cup final, Newcastle players' appearance money for walking on the pitch at Wembley was £12 each. The guardsmen that played the music at half time were getting 25. And that nearly caused a strike in the dressing room at half time, because Charlie Crowe found out and went back in and had a go at Stan Seymour about the fact they were only getting £10. They had gone on a training camp, which Seymour was famous for, to the big Palace Hotel in Buxton, and he gave them the princely sum of £2 a day expenses because they were away from home. It's a bit different to Ronaldo, I'm afraid.
Certainly is, George. Certainly is. we're rounding off now. I'd just like to say thank you very much for putting up with us for the last half hour. We'll get a chance to refresh our drinks. We'll get the lads up here when they arrive, get their photographs taken, those who've got VIP tickets, anything signed. And then round about 9:15, we'll get Gibbo on and we'll have the talk in for about an hour. So refresh your drinks, go to the loo. If you haven't seen the war flags, I think it's still open. If it's not, I'm sorry, Bill's locked the door. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, and if anybody wants, when the lads are here, they're signing copies of the Entertainers book, which are available at the back. So you'll get a signed copy of the Entertainers with all 4 lads with their signatures in. The 3 lads, sorry. And I'm sure Gibbo will sign him when he's part of the Entertainers anyway. He's an entertainer on his own. So if you want a copy of the book, it is a great book, by the way. It's one of the best books that I've read about Newcastle United for the last few years. Highly recommended. So enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.